School crossing patrols were originally set up by an Act of Parliament, but as local councils face increasing pressure to cut costs, more and more authorities are looking at reducing the number of lollipop men and women. Now campaigners are calling for a change in the law to protect all school crossing patrols from the axe of road safety. John Henderson reports.
It's 8:20 and a walking bus is on the move.
Oh, it's cold. I should have put some gloves on this morning.
Leading the march, though not necessarily from the front, is Helen Toft.
A nice day, but a bit nippy round the edges, isn't it?
Keeping children safe from traffic is her driving passion.
But you have to be careful it doesn't fall out while you're at school. There's nothing worse than losing your tooth in the playground so the tooth fairy can't come. It's children. At the end of the day, it's children. Alex, out of the road. And we seem to be, in this country, quite blasé about road traffic accidents.
A few minutes later, the walking bus is almost at its destination, Holy Trinity School. The last leg requires crossing the A354, the busy Buxton Road into Weymouth. Standing firm against the traffic, a familiar sight on our roads.
Thank you. Morning, Nikki. I couldn't find your number. I was going to ring you. I'll find it. All right. Thank you.
Yet Dorset's dedicated lollipop team are in jeopardy. All 65 could go as the county council tries to save £200,000. That's angered parents, people like Poppy's mum.
I think it would be horrific, absolutely horrific, because there's a big long road there and the children aren't going to walk half a mile to go down to the end of the road to cross over, and they are just going to take a chance, definitely, to get across the road.
Preventing that from happening spurred Helen into action. She set up a campaign complete with blog from the bedroom to fight the cuts to Dorset's school crossing patrols.
The saving of £200,000 is 0.3% of Dorset's whole £650 million budget. It's an insignificant amount, but when you start looking at it in detail, if you look at the figures for a road fatality, in the cost of public services in excess of £1 million. So though there's a saving to Dorset, there's a greater cost when one of the children is hit. And that's without thinking about the actual emotional cost to a school community or a community of a child being killed and to the family. I mean, it's a very false economy.
Dorset County Council says to save £55 million over 3 years, it has to look at all spending areas, including school crossing patrols. But what about elsewhere in the region? Somerset County Council says it has no plans to cut its 75 crossing patrols, neither does Cornwall, which has 115. There are no plans for Devon's 116 patrols, though it's looking to save £100,000 from the service. But no plans doesn't mean never, as Parliament heard during a recent adjournment debate.
I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that this should not be a discretionary power. And I'd like to point out, if a few authorities cut school crossing patrols this year, then this could become widespread across the country, and I would think that would be a great matter of concern.
Because while lollipop patrols have been around for over 50 years, they've never been made compulsory, meaning there's no statutory obligation for local authorities to provide them. Some feel that should change.
You would have to probably frame it in terms of a legal duty to provide safe routes to school, so that if there were already zebra crossings or pelican crossings or whatever, then you wouldn't have to put school crossing patrols in place. But I think it's really important that parents and their children are assisted in walking to school. That is the most sustainable form of getting to school.
But there's also a warning that getting to school safely could be compromised by the current financial situation.
So I think there's a real concern that as we constrain local government funding, casualties will not continue their downward trend, but will begin to rise again. And that's obviously of concern to society as a whole.
Brilliant, well done, sweetheart. I'm going to keep this now.
Campaigners like Helen have given short shrift to proposals to pay volunteers to run patrols out of school funds. The battle over the lollipop patrols has a way to go yet.